So you like preseason football? You excited to see Baker Mayfield take the field against the Kansas City Chiefs at Raymond James Stadium?
A rematch of Super Bowl 55?
It's exactly what I was thinking, yeah. I mean, the vibe was almost not quite the same. Which one of those 8 plays, 4 passes, 2 completions, and 0 points did you like, Steve?
The one where Baker threw it at the feet of the player, or the screen pass after screen pass, or Bucky Irvin's runs were fine.
Yeah, no, I thought Bucky ran the ball well. They definitely moved some guys, had some penalties. Might have been a better outcome, but, you know, it was a cameo at best or worst. But, yeah, his night was pretty short. And listen, they weren't going to play along a lot anyway. And Todd Bowles had told us somewhere 8 to 15 plays, depending on how it went, and it didn't go well. But the bigger issue was that their top 3, other than, when you're out Tristan Wirfs and then Justin Skull and then Ben Chukwuma, okay, only Luke Gedeke is your only starting tackle that's available to you.
Only
right?
On your 3-deep chart available to you.
Yeah. And I mean, you're not, and you could tell by the play calling, right? They came out, they were intent on running the football, which is a smart thing to do. But they weren't going to tempt the gods with, a 7 or 5 step drop or something and let them throw the ball down the field, because frankly, they couldn't block anybody. And this, too tall Paul, as we call him, Paul Rubelt, played the entire game at left tackle. The guy's like 6'10", okay? That's not a good thing in football, by the way, sometimes, because low man wins. So if you're 6'10", now I talked to Bowles, today, and he said, he played. He's only a guy that played 100% of the snaps. I thought he fared well. Some plays he'd like to have back, like the ones where you almost got Browning killed a couple of times. In fact, he got hit so hard that the referee had to take him off the field for a play to make sure he was still with us. So there was that. But he thought he fought his butt off, and he did end up playing the entire game. But there's no way you're going to put Baker Mayfield, behind an offensive line with your 4th offensive tackle. That's just not going to work. And if you do, it's going to look a lot like it did, where he hands the ball off, quick screen. And, not for nothing, the Chiefs figured that out pretty quickly. They know the ball was coming out of his hand fast. So that didn't look good. In fact, the whole first half didn't look good for either team. I will say that the Bucs defense, the starting unit, showed up. Rueben Bain showed up,
Yes.
right? Didn't record a sack, but, man, there were some Reggie White-like moves. And he did get some licks on the quarterback and got some pressure. And I thought they stopped the run pretty well when that first group was in there. You just had the guys you want to show up, showed up, right? Anzalone called the right defenses, got them in the right formations. You had Josiah Trotter coming downhill making plays. They had, Anthony Nelson had a monster first quarter, I think, or first half. He had a sack and a half, forced fumble, quarterback hit. Like he was all over the place. So they did some things on defense that without Vita Vea, that would make you feel pretty good against. Again, it wasn't like the Chiefs were going to start Patrick Mahomes, right? That was not going to happen. He's not quite ready yet. But Justin Fields was in there, and he's an NFL quarterback. And he didn't do a whole lot. 3 field goals in the first half. And then move over, Dan Marino. I mean, what do you make of what is now becoming sort of like, I don't know, Tampa Bay's favorite quarterback?
Start preparing the bus
Daniels.
for Canton.
Yeah, Jalon Daniels, folks. That's right. Your new savior of Tampa Bay is Jalon Daniels.
I saw some people online saying he needs to be the starter now.
It needs to be. Woo. Reality check. Let's just back it up a little bit, folks. And listen, I'm not going to. I actually like the guy a lot. I think he has a future. How bright of a future? Time will only tell. He played a lot of college football. I think that's in his favor. But for the second straight week, he did come in and changed the scoreboard and rallied them to a 16-15 win, including some key drives, and was able to run out the clock at the end of the game. So 2 weeks in a row, he's made plays, made clutch plays with his feet, with his arm. And again, he's not throwing to Emeka Ibuka, and he's not throwing to Jalon Daniels, or Jalen. He is Jalon. He's not throwing to some of the guys that normally would be starting out there, right? So, and he doesn't have the starting offensive line, but he's not playing against starters either. But my point is, he's as hamstrung as the guys across from him. But he's performed, and he's looked poised, and he makes quick decisions. And when things break down, he doesn't panic, and he moved the team, and he provided a spark, and they won the game. And so, those are all things that are positive that you want from a young quarterback. Now, and John Romano wrote about this in the Tampa Bay Times on TampaBay.com. I think it's getting to the point where, in a perfect world, imagine a world where the Tampa Bay Bucs would waive Jalon Daniels when they get to the final cut next. Well, they can begin cutting players, next Saturday. But when they start to do that, they would probably prefer to waive him, hope that he clears waivers and bring him back in the practice squad. But guess what? I think there's too much good film on him now. Even though it's against guys that might not be playing in the NFL, it's still out there. And so you just need one team that says, yeah, I'll take him into my camp, and you've lost him. For the 53rd player on the active roster, who's going to be a fifth tight end, a fourth or fifth running back, sixth or seventh receiver. I think you have to keep Daniels as at least as one of your quarterbacks. Jake Browning has not been great, needless to say. He was 9 of 12 for 84 yards. He took some vicious hits, but he didn't get any points on the board either. But if you go to Cincinnati week 1 where Browning played and something happens to Baker Mayfield in the first quarter or the first half or the first game for that matter, you're going to want a guy that's been in the fire. And Jake has played a lot of football in the last 8 or 9 years. And so, he's had to fight for a job every single year. This is nothing new for him. But he's far more advanced and qualified to be Baker's backup right now. Now, could things change as the season were to wear on? If Baker did indeed get hurt and was knocked out for any length of time, it could. But I think the Bucs have reached the point of no return. Is that Daniels, the intangibles that people look for in a good quarterback, starting with the fact he played well over 50 games at Kansas, which I think is important for guys coming to this level. But his intelligence, he's picked up the offense, he directs them out there, he leads them, and he's got a bright future. So, Steve, I think they're going to have 3 quarterbacks this year.
Yeah, it's going to get harder and harder to slip him through waivers. And that's, like I said, Jake Browning's going to be the backup.
Absolutely.
This is it's the same thing with Kyle Trask. Like, they want an experienced quarterback to be the backup. If you think you have a shot at the Super Bowl, you think you're going to win your division, go to the playoffs. Like, you need look at what the Niners did with Mac Jones last year.
Yeah.
When Brock Purdy went down.
Yeah.
You don't want to turn it over to an inexperienced rookie. You may like the rookie.
5-1, I think, or 5-2.
Yeah. You may like the rookie and that, but you also heard John Gruden and Ronnie Barber talk about it, and Baker Mayfield even said, hey, he's still struggling with getting the play calls down and
sure
and understanding that, which is expected for a rookie, right? And those kind of things. And you can't have, when you have a chance and experience backup in that rookie, you don't want him to be the one you go to in week 3 if Baker gets hurt.
Exactly.
You want to keep grooming him, keep teaching him, keep helping him, because you see a ton of potential.
Oh, yeah.
And so you don't want to just, let that go away.
No.
But, it's still the second half of preseason games he's been playing in. Understand the competition he's going against. He looks great, and that's why, and like I said, there's the potential, and you want to keep teaching him and grooming him and giving him experience, but he's not ready to be the backup of a team that, if you think has a shot at the Super Bowl, that's not your backup quarterback yet.
Correct. No, I don't disagree with anything you said. And it's not ideal. Okay. Now you can. What's interesting is that if you have 3, they have the inactive third quarterback, where even if he's not active, he can dress, and if something were to happen, to your starter, and then the next guy you put in, then you have a quarterback there that can play and finish the game for you, and not count, on game day to whatever the limit is there. But it's still going to mean a pretty good player doesn't make this football team. Somebody that we're used to making it. Maybe a Cameron Johnson, although I think he's the number one kick returner. He probably will. But there's a lot of guys that have showed up and showed out these last few weeks. And, I think David Walker is safe, but there's a lot of outside linebackers. Mohamed Kamara's had a couple of good weeks. I think Nelson is safe. Look at the receiving room, I mean, I can name, 5 right now. And who's number 6? Who's 7? Special teams is going to determine that. Am I going to keep 4 tight ends or 3? How many offensive linemen can I carry? Because some of these tackles might not be healthy when the season starts. So I may have to carry 10, which is probably 1 or 2 too many. So all of that is going to cut into, your depth and what what you want to do. And injuries play a big part of this too. Defensive backs have been hurt pretty much since camp started. We still haven't seen Benjamin Morrison. We may see him in some iteration this week in Jacksonville as they go up there for joint practices on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday walkthrough. They play Friday against Liam Cohen's team. But there's going to be good players or a good player that you're going to go, like Jalon Daniels. The best plan is that he never sees the field. Now, what's his job? Same as it would be if he was on the scout squad, if you can get him there, or the practice squad, and that is he's going to be the quarterback that's, imitating and providing the look squad every week for whoever the Bucs are playing. And, now maybe the first week, Jake Browning is that guy playing Joe Burrow because he's not mobile. And who knows the offense better than Jake? He just played in it in Cincinnati. But when you come to some mobile quarterbacks, that's where a guy like Jalon Daniels can help you prepare for that player that week. So he'll have a role, but it's Baker's room and all that. But so I always, though, excuse me, I always think that it's fun to watch, especially quarterbacks, to see them have that little intangible, because that's really what you're looking for in today's game. What these teams are getting from college, it's very difficult to translate, into the NFL game. And it's starting in high school. These high school coaches are saying, I don't have a quarterback. Who's my best athlete? Let's put the ball in his hands every play. We'll teach him to throw it enough. But even in college, like Jalon Daniels asked him, well, what's been the toughest part? And he goes, man, it's learning the playbook. It's those long plays and just spitting them out in the huddle, because it's part of the Sean McVay West Coast offense, and the verbiage is a lot. And he goes, when I was at Kansas, I look over there and they put up a sign and it's 95, and I look at my wristband and I call out 95, and everybody knows what they're doing, and that's not the way it works in the NFL. I mean, those guys in college, they're not even under center ever. They don't have a snap count. They go up to the line of scrimmage and clap their hands. So you're about as far away from an NFL quarterback as you could be by the time you get here. And yet, in just a few short training camp weeks, he's kind of mastered this offense to the point where he can run it. I think he has a future in this league. I'll be anxious to see what his role will be going forward here. But they've kind of exposed him to the point where I think he's on it. I think he's going to make this team because I'm in agreement with you. I think it's such a quarterback needy league that when there's film like this, I mean, I was looking. You look on any roster and you'll go, yeah, Daniels could help them. He could help them. He could help them. So he wouldn't be out there long. And even if you got him back on the practice squad, let's say he clears waivers, right? There's going to be injuries, and at some point, someone's going to need more quarterbacks, or a lot of teams are going to need more quarterbacks. They can sign him for your practice squad so long as he goes to their active roster, and you can't do anything about it. That's the beauty of being on a practice squad. Any team can bring you up. It doesn't have to be yours. So I think I think he sticks, and it's unfortunate. Like, here's the question I have. They'll have practices with the Jaguars, and they'll be very useful, and much like they were with the Jets. This is just the way that NFL teams, most of them, prepare themselves now. But have you really seen enough? Do you really think, with all the training camp and all the reps they get, but they got to go into Cincinnati having played 8 plays, right, in like 3 weeks of real football? That's just so bizarre to me.
It is, but it's the new. I mean, it's the new norm. It's what teams do. I mean, last year Baker didn't play any snaps.
I know. I know. How'd he start? Oh, it's 5-1, 6-2.
Yeah. Although the starts in some of those games weren't great, but the finishes were.
That's true. Yeah, they didn't always start them fast, but they sure did.
Yeah.
They sure did end up on the right side of the scoreboard. There's some interesting battles going on, and you mentioned one before we came on. How about running back? Josh Williams got a chance to play ahead of Sean Tucker last night in the preseason game.
And I think it was a tryout to see, would they rather keep Williams and cut Sean Tucker's
3.52 million?
Yeah, whatever it is, salary.
Yeah. I don't
save that
disagree.
for RB3.
Yep.
Even though they like Sean Tucker, and they could cut him and have him come back for less, possibly, depending on, if he gets offers elsewhere. It's something going into the season, it was, all right, you got Irving, you got Gainwell, you got Sean Tucker. You thought it was great. It looks like they might be thinking differently.
Yeah. Well, they were impressed enough. He had the touchdown run in the first game, and it was a beauty. He made about 3 or 4 different cuts to get in the end zone. He's looked good in practice. And again, it is a money business because RFA tenders are not guaranteed. So it was a little surprising they gave Tucker the full tender back in March, to be honest with you. Because, and they could, possibly, I think if he gets cut, they'd have to be prepared to move on from him entirely. But let's say you just renegotiate with him and he comes back on a lesser deal. In other words, he's not RB3 now. He's RB4. So
it's a battle we didn't see coming in this camp.
No.
And I don't think it's anything that Sean Tucker has done necessarily. I think it's purely salary.
Yeah, I agree.
They like what Josh Williams gives them, and they look, we can save a couple mil here for cash and cap.
Yeah. Absolutely. Safety, they're a little bit thin. Those guys got to stay healthy. We still don't know about the corners just because Benjamin Morrison hasn't played. This is a big week for Benjamin Morrison. Like, if there's any way he can get his butt on the field against Jacksonville in those workouts, it would be very reassuring to the Bucs if he could do that. Now, they've had good play from a lot of guys, in training camp that, have made interceptions and made some big plays. So they feel better about their depth than I would, because these are guys that haven't played a lot in the NFL. But when they've been out there, and sometimes against, starting teams like the Jets, this Rueben Bain, he intercepts a pass the other night. He'd done that last year in training camp as well. That set up Tucker's touchdown that gave the Bucs their lead at 16-15. It's been a lot of guys, show up at different times at defensive back. I still think Jacob Parrish might be their starter opposite Zion McCallum, who is now healthy. He started the game. He looked good. He made a big open field tackle, which hasn't always been his strong suit. The defense, I got to tell you, Steve, when they get Vita Vea back, and, the back probably is feeling a little bit better. I don't know how much or what Vita will do in Jacksonville.
It's amazing what a new contract will do for your back.
Crazy. Yeah, just like all of a sudden. But even without him, Kansas City came out and like most teams in the preseason, want to run the ball. They tried to run the football. They couldn't. And watching Rueben Bain Jr., now he didn't get a sack, but he had some moves, like a Reggie White sort of forearm. He hit the quarterback a few times. Yaya got back there a few times, and they stopped the run. And Josiah Trotter, Alex Anzalone, like, it's going to be hard to run the football on this team. If they got all their dudes and you got all your dudes, it's going to be, and then that gets you into the third and longs, and that's where the sacks come from, right? You got to earn the right to rush the passer on first and second down, period. And I think they could do that. I think they can trample the run. I think teams are going to try because they're a little bit bigger, and you saw Kansas City do this. You're going to see a lot of balls out on the edge of the perimeter and make the big guys have to run sideline to sideline. That's what you do against heavy teams. You try to get them out of the box. You try to get them moving, right? And I think that's what teams will do. But just running the ball inside, because you can't always run tosses all day, it's going to be a real slog for teams to run against them. And I think that's the best thing they've done from last season to now is get some size, get some attitude going, and it's showing up on defense. Like, these guys play for each other. They play hard. Doesn't seem to matter who's in the game. They're deep at outside linebacker. I mentioned Nelson. They've got a lot of guys, including, Walker has done a nice job. So I like their defense, and I didn't think I'd say that. I still think they're thin at corner. I think you're one injury away from, maybe it really being in trouble and having somebody exploit you, especially when you're looking at Joe Burrow and the receivers he has. But even Mohamed Kamara, like, these are guys that are consistently showing up, making plays in the backfield, hitting quarterbacks, and it's a good problem to have. Is to get, because that was the whole thing. A guy like Chris Braswell is probably not going to make this football team. He was what, a second round pick, and from Alabama, he probably won't make the team.
Yep.
Because they're so deep there. So that's a good thing. And the defense is the part of the equation that has to come the longest way. Look, Zach Robinson will figure it out. He's got two really good running backs in Gainwell, Bucky Irving. Bucky ran the ball well at the beginning of that game. I thought he looked fresh. So yeah, you gotta hope that Mecca's ready, that Jalen McMillan is ready, because here we go again. Yes, they're deep at receiver, but who's your go-to guy if, say, a Mecca's out? Right? You got Chris Godwin, obviously he can still play, but it thins out pretty quickly after that. David Sills, I thought, showed up as a special teams guy, and he, of course, played for the Falcons with Robinson, and he looks like he knows what he's doing. So tough decisions. They'll practice twice this week in Jacksonville with Liam Cohen, which, by the way, maybe it was just me, but Bowles came out and said, I've never had a problem with Liam Cohen. We text, we call each other all the time, bounce things off each other. It's like, yeah, okay. That's not the story I remembered a couple of years ago, but okay. They did go a year with not going up to Jacksonville after Liam was hired, but
maybe Bowles doesn't have a problem.
It might be Jason Light that does,
because by Cohen going there, Bowles still has his job. I mean,
well, that's a good point.
The other alternative was to get rid of Bowles to keep Cohen as the head coach.
That's actually that's a really good point. You're right. I don't have a problem with going to Jacksonville as long as I got my gig.
Yeah, so
but it did force him to hire yet another coordinator. It didn't work out with Josh Grizzard. Now we're back to Zach Robinson, and Robinson and Liam and their families vacation together. They're good friends, and they work together with the Rams, and a lot of similarities on offense. So that'll be good work up there in Jacksonville for the Bucs, and we'll see. Then it's going to be real, man. Then it's like you got that kind of mini week where they'll take a bunch of days off. They'll cut players beginning probably when they get back from Jacksonville early Saturday morning, all the way through like Monday, and you'll have a couple of days of practice. They'll come back, have a bonus day, maybe Sunday, Monday of the next week, and then it's Tuesday off, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, fly to Cincinnati Saturday, and then they play the Bengals in the season opener. And then they come home against the Browns. What a mess that team is. Jeez.
I mean, first of all, who's your quarterback?
Yeah.
Secondly, you're cutting tight ends so they can go back to LSU, although I'm not sure that's why they cut them. But
No. That was funny.
Lane Kiffin's calling Todd Monken this week, and Monken had no clue why. Now he does.
Monkey goes, now I know why Lane was trying to get a hold of me. He's taking my players back. We can get into some of that because obviously the Bucs have a player who's kind of in that same boat as well. Let's and we'll also have the Rays we need to talk about, who got some winning vibes going up there in Baltimore finally, and that's a good thing for them. But first, hey folks, get on down to Breitling Boutique. You know where that's at? International Plaza Mall. That's right, best mall in the Tampa Bay area for my money and yours too. Where are you going to find the Breitling Boutique? Second floor, uh, right in the center of the mall. That's where the Breitling Boutique is, and you're going to enjoy the customer service. Come in, spend some time. They'll pour you a drink. They'll tell you about their watches for men, the chronomats, the Navitimers that they're known for, ladies' watches as well. They have sports watches, incredibly durable, beautiful. So you can choose from all different kinds of colored wristbands and also elegant watches for your wife or girlfriend as well. But what's really interesting, if you're a sports fan or football fan, and while you're listening to this podcast, you're probably both, they have celebrated the NFL's 105th year anniversary with 32 different team watches. This is while supplies last. These are chronomat watches for men. They have the team colors as the face of the watch, the logo inside. They also have them in some sports watches as well. Collector's items, you're going to want them. You're going to want to spend some time at Breitling Boutique, International Plaza. When you go, please let them know that you heard about it here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Yeah, the Cleveland Browns thing, just real quick before we jump on the Rays here. But first of all, I know Todd Monken very well. He was in Tampa Bay as a receivers coach, then the offensive coordinator under Dirk Cutter. Went to Baltimore. Well, first he went to Georgia and won 2 national championships there. But then went to Baltimore with the Ravens, Lamar Jackson. Did a good job there. And he was a long shot at best. He interviewed for a couple head coaching jobs, but I didn't think he would get one, in part because of his age, and just not, was never really the sexy choice. Everybody wants a disciple of Sean McVay or something like that. But I think Monk in fact, I know he's a really good football coach. And you know what he is? He's a really good communicator. And I think that's important in a head coach, be able to tell these guys exactly what the plan is, exactly how you plan to go about it, get the buy-in, he's got a lot of stripes on his shirt. He's been through a lot in the game of football. He knows what he's doing. Now, I'm not sure the Cleveland Browns organization you can say the same thing about. So sometimes it's just, hey man, I coached the Browns, and they couldn't get out of their own way. But they have this quarterback thing, and Deshaun Watson hadn't played football in almost 2 years, right? And he comes back and he's competing, quote unquote, with Shedeur Sanders, who finished up last year as their starter. And some people I've heard say on the radio, like, why are they messing around with Deshaun Watson? I mean, just go find out what you have in Sanders, and if he sucks, then you'll lose enough games, and you can try to get Arch Manning next year because you'll be in the top 5 or whatever. I'm here to tell you, and I don't know why people overlook this, but yes, Monken probably has a guaranteed contract for a number of years with Cleveland. No, they're not going to let him finish it if the team is bad. But those guys that get these jobs, they didn't get them because they were like, looking to build a program. I mean, it's great if your owner says, hey, I'm going to give you, it's a 5-year plan. But that's not the way it works these days. They don't buy green bananas. Todd Monken's going to want to win and win right now. And I've heard people, on Fox Sports Radio and others going like, this is stupid. Why are you messing around with Deshaun Watson? And on one level, I agree with it because, I know the fans didn't like him and the ickiness that surrounded his whole situations, with massage therapists and whatnot. But I promise you this, that if Todd Monken and the Cleveland Browns believe that Watson gives him a better chance to win week 1, he will be the starter, right? And if they think it's Shedeur Sanders, he will be the starter. The contract's so ridiculous, they paid so much of it now, I think it's negligible. I think he's on the team either way if they want him to be. But he came off the field, I guess, over the weekend, and he was booed unmercifully, I guess. And he took it, he said, well, that was personal. Well, I mean, okay, let's take a step back here, Deshaun. How did you get here? Like, what was the controversy surrounding you? That's number one. Number two is you didn't play well. And I thought what Monken said after the game was perfect because he's like, look, guys, that's the business, you know? They'll come around fast as you can imagine. Once you start playing well and you start winning games, they're gonna love you. That's just the way it is up here. You know? You should expect that. And yet Watson seemed hurt by it, maybe even surprised a little bit.
It's just he's paid what, $250 million?
Yeah, most of it he's gotten already. Yeah.
You know, and he's ticked off. The fans are booing him with everything he's been accused of and been through, and
right.
And he's not playing great out there. I mean, if all of a sudden he went out there and played fantastic, they wouldn't be booing anymore.
No, they'd overlook a lot if he was out there slinging it and the Browns got off to a 4-0 start. They'd be asking to sign him to a contract extension, which is funny. But and listen, I'm not an anti Sanders guy. Believe me, I'm not. I just don't know that he's established himself in the games that he played last year as being their next starting quarterback. It'll be good to find out before if you had another bad year and it's supposed to be a tremendous quarterback class. And if you end up picking in the top 5, you'd like to know if Shedeur is your guy going forward or not. But even when he played last year, I was never blown away. I mean, can he make some plays? Yeah. He's not the worst quarterback I've seen, but he's far and away not the best. And I think he's just kind of, one of those guys that he could be a starter, could be a career backup. It's there hasn't done anything to separate himself, I guess I would say, from the rest of the pack. So that being said, he's going to have to go out there and make plays and show the Browns and show Todd Monken that you're the guy, and they'll get behind him. But I don't know. Right now, I've heard people say well, why would you play Deshaun at all? Well, let's reverse it. Let's say you play Shedeur and he's not good in the beginning of the season. When you move away from him, it might be forever. If you go the other way and you play Watson and maybe he's not great, Shedeur bides his time, watches the mistakes, learns how to correct them, from afar. And then, it gets to the point of the season where maybe it's lost, maybe it's not, but you're going to turn to him. And when you turn to him, you're turning to him for the future. Win, lose, or draw. You're going to say, we're giving you the rest of the year. You're our guy in a perfect world. And so, I don't know. I don't know that starting Shedeur, then if he goes bad, now you're going to Watson. And if he goes bad, you're going back to Shedeur? Or are you going to go to the kid from Oregon via UCF? I don't know what the plan would be. But I promise you, I know Monken. And Monken's thinking this. Who gives me the best damn chance to win? Week 2 in Tampa. Who gives me the best chance to win that game? And that's really all he cares about. And that's frankly all he should care about. The organization them can make whatever plans they want, but coaches, it's only fair that the coaches and the players get a chance to win every game. You've got to let them try to win games. And these guys, I heard somebody on Fox Sports Radio. I used to be in Detroit, but anyway, he was just saying I don't understand why. Why would you even? Obviously, they haven't seen enough of Sanders. They don't think he's a starting quarterback or he'd be starting. But why would you even entertain starting Deshaun Watson? And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you? If you think he's the best quarterback, and I don't know that he is. Maybe he's not. But if he's not, they'll play the other guy anyway. So it's just funny, man. Cleveland, oof. That's one place I'm glad I didn't. My friend Mary Kay Cabot, who's in the Hall of Fame, by the way, but she's done the Browns as long as I've done the Bucs, and she has seen a lot. and we kind of commiserate because for a while there, we had seen a lot together. It was incredible. So how they say you're only as good as tomorrow's starting pitcher? That's who the Rays were. And they're pretty good when Nick Martinez is on the bump.
Yes, he got him out of another losing skid or whatever else. They lost, 2 in a row to the Orioles. Orioles are just a team they can't beat this year.
I know.
Which they started 3-0 against, which was amazing. But then
there's a chance they have to see him again one day.
maybe,
the
although
playoffs.
they're 2 games out of the wild card now.
Yeah.
There's actually only 4 teams in the American League with a winning record.
Wow. That's
crazy. The AL
man.
West has losing record.
That's just insane.
So it's the 3 American League East teams, the Rays, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and then the White Sox are the other
3 of the 4 in the same division that have a winning. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And then the White Sox are above 500. Everybody else is below 500.
That is nuts. But yeah, man, Nick Martinez, I mean, took the mound, 6 innings, 1 hit in a 3-1 win over the Orioles after they had lost 7 of their last 9. So they got to hope that maybe this gives them a little bit of momentum, and it's the start of something. At least it stopped a 3-game losing streak. So they're 77-53, and they have a 3-game lead that they maintain over the Yankees. They won in Toronto. Wouldn't you know, Toronto, who was giving the Rays everything they could hope for, could not help the Rays out and beat the Yankees. So, but a big win for them nonetheless up there in Baltimore.
32 games to go, 3-game lead.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to hold up, Steve. It should.
Well, it looks like Giancarlo Stanton not coming back this season.
Oh, is that right?
He injured his other leg now.
Wow.
Rehabbing the one he fell and injured the other.
We still don't know about Judge just yet, right?
No, at this point we don't. They're still expecting him to come back or hoping.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rays got to figure out how to get theirs. I mean, they've only they've 3-7 their last 10.
Yeah.
They got to figure out a way to get out of the skid.
Yeah, they've had a couple of these, and of course, this one's weird because it came on the heels of a 9-0 road trip where you'd figure, well, they've played so well at home. If you can go 9-0 on the road, they're just going to take off.
Well, the other night they had got only their second loss this season when they had a lead after 7.
Right.
They had a huge record this year with that.
Right. Well, Martinez was spectacular. I mean, he's been nails for him pretty much all year. You know why? And I was talking to John. Me and John Romano had this conversation at the Bucs the other day. Was really, you look at this kind of skid they've been on. They're giving up too many runs. I think for a lot of these guys, maybe even including Martinez, they're pitching innings that they probably haven't thrown for a very long time, or at least, you're getting up there now, right?
Yeah. Yes, they are. Yep.
So as it stands to reason as you get further and further into a major league season, when you've thrown, that you're getting to get to about 30 starts or something like that. Fatigue is a thing, whether it's mental or physical. But like these guys are kind of, this is when you go to the whip and down the stretch they come, right? You're going to have to here you go, man. But I just think that in some cases, maybe they got some dead arms. Maybe they just, they've been giving up some home runs, particularly with 2 strikes. And there's a stat that somebody trotted out the other day. It was kind of unusual. It's not that, and look, they're never going to score a ton of runs. They kind of, have to manufacture them, but they've just been, the home run balls killed them. The pitching has not been what it was earlier this year. So it could just be, a little bit of fatigue. Got to catch your second wind here if you got one.
Well, you're getting the last 32 games, but essentially the last month of the season now.
Yeah.
Now it's go time.
It's go time, and it's only a 3.5 game lead, right?
Yep. And if you want the home field, you want to get a bye the first round.
The bye to me is so huge because even though in baseball it's a little weird because you play every day, and then all of a sudden it's like you could go a week, right? But I'm telling you, the rest over rust, like baseball, yeah, momentum is a real thing in any sport, but I think you tend to forget. You see these wild card teams, you're like, oh, you don't want to play those guys. Well, maybe you don't, but you know what? The other team is home for a reason. They were better, and you can get all your guys back healthy. It's a good position to be in, and you have to win one less series. That's the biggest thing, to get to the World Series. So we shall see, but good to see that they at least pulled themselves out of it for one day up in Baltimore.
Yep. Now they're in Detroit tonight. So
Detroit tonight, okay.
Yep. Who's 8 games below 500?
Yeah, Detroit's kind of. I mean, they let their best pitcher go. So
yeah, they thought they were climbing back in, and now they're 3.5 out of the wild card with 4 teams to jump before they get to
that's
the
the problem.
Card,
The 4 teams to jump is the problem.
Yep.
As much as anything. Yeah.
So, I mean, your next few series, Detroit, and you got San Diego. They're in the 3rd wild card spot in the National League, so that's a decent team.
Yeah.
And they're fighting for playoff berth there. Then you get the Mets, who stink. So, like, you have some teams here you need to beat up on.
Yeah, winnable series, winnable games, and gotta get that lead and possibly expand it if you can. If you get some help from Toronto, which just did you guys in a little while ago.
Yep.
That would be
these next series, if you're at Detroit, then you get the Padres and Mets at home. Like, meatloaf them 2 or 3 from each one. You're going to be fine.
Win series, you'll be fine. Get to that final Yankee series with more than a 4-game lead, you're great. If it's a 4-game lead, you're probably still okay. Get through that 2-2, and then you got 2 games in Philly. I think you're done. So we're getting there. It's inching its way for sure. The Bucs are going to. I think they have maybe some meetings today. There's no availability for the media. They'll be getting on a plane, some on a bus, but most of the people in the organization on a bus. The players will be getting on a plane traveling to Jacksonville, where they have joint workouts with the Jaguars on Tuesday and Wednesday. I will be headed up there as well, so you can check all of that out on TampaBay.com and in the Tampa Bay Times, and we'll tell you about it on this podcast every night from Jacksonville as well. They play Friday night, and then it's cut down time. I think the final cut downs are Monday. I want to say at 4:00. Like a week from now. But yeah, we're getting through the preseason, thank God, and closer and closer to the regular season, which we're all really looking forward to. And I think Bucs fans are going to be happy with what they've done, the changes they've made, the defense that they've installed, and also especially when they see Rueben. I want to see Rueben Bain for a full game. I want to see this guy rush in the 4th quarter with the Bucs have a lead and the other team has to throw. It's going to be exciting. He is a handful, as are some of the other guys on that defense. So it's going to be a lot of fun this year to watch those guys fly around. Okay, get on down to Breitling Boutique, folks, International Plaza Mall. That's where you're going to find the beautiful watches for men, the Navitimers, Chromats, watches for your wife or girlfriend as well. And while supplies last, NFL team watches, 32 team watches that you will absolutely want as a collector's item. Whatever favorite team you have, including the Buccaneers, you'll find it at Breitling Boutique. And make sure you let them know you heard about it here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Apologize for being a little nasally tonight, under the weather, but hey, we do it for you people, okay? Thanks for listening. As always, for Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.